Is Smith & Wesson's M&P10 any good? Today we're going to find out. Hello everybody, welcome back to LocaCarnivore, the hunting, guns, and adventure channel for smart people. And you're smart because you're watching us instead of something silly. You know who I'm talking about. At any rate, today we're going to talk about, as we said in the intro, Smith & Wesson's M&P10 10mm semi-automatic pistol. Alright, the M&P10 has been out from Smith & Wesson now for probably a year or so, as we made at the time we're making this video. So why the heck are we reviewing it now? Well, frankly, we don't get the advanced, what are called test and evaluation guns from the industry like all the big name people do. Heck, we don't even have a production staff. I don't have camera people. It's just little old me and that little old camera that you're watching me on right now, doing the best we can to give you as best a product as possible, but you will get an honest review. That's why we're doing it now and not as part of a coordinated launch of the product by Smith & Wesson or whoever would be launching whatever product, because these people get these test and evaluation guns months in advance. They do their tests or whatever they're going to do. They shoot their videos and then it goes in the can, and they don't release it until the company who gave them the T&E gun says they can release it. Here, as soon as we can get it done and get it out to you, you're going to hear about it. So here you go. So the only support we get right now is through Patreon. So if you wouldn't mind going down to the link that we have in the description and becoming part of our Patreon family, that would really help us a lot to get better equipment, do better videos for you, more videos particularly. At the moment, I just don't have the time to do them at a rate other than what I'm doing right now. We do have one other source of support, and that's our new store that we opened over at LocaCarnivore.com. That's our website. The link's in the description again. But it's at the moment strictly LocaCarnivore branded merchandise. It's not a lot, but it's growing, so go on over there. We'd really appreciate your support on that. And on top of that, you get some great swag to wear around, ball caps, whatever it might be. Remember, we've got good information throughout the length of the video, so stay through to the end. You'll want to get every bit of it. Plus, we have, as always, a humorous conclusion at the end of the video. We know you'll like that. The Smith & Wesson M&P10 is a 10mm striker-fired polymer-framed pistol. It weighs 29.3 ounces, according to Smith & Wesson. It's 1.3 inches wide at its widest point. It's 5.6 inches tall, and the barrel is 4.6 inches long. It comes with two 15-round magazines. They're steel mags. They are not the composite type like a Glock where it's steel liner covered by polymer. So they could be just a little less robust, especially if you drop them. But Smith & Wesson mags have always been noted for being very durable. There's a lot of them used in law enforcement. They've been around for, Smith & Wesson's been making magazines since the 1950s at least for their pistols, so they should be pretty good. All right, the M&P10 comes with these raised suppressor height sights, and that's because it's optics ready. So these sights are, suppressor sights are, since the barrel's not threaded, the suppressor sights are in order to let you co-witness the sights through the optic, and that's not a bad idea should the optic fail, although the possibility of the optic failing these days is pretty slim. They're very robust units. It's good technology these days. The M&P10 has very easy to use controls. There's the magazine release. There's the slide release, and this is the takedown lever. They are not a full ambi. You do get a slide release on the opposite side of the gun, and but you have to swap the magazine release around if you want a full a left-handed gun. So that is one downside, but it's similar to Glock, a lot of the others in the same market niche. However, the Springfield XDM Elite is a full ambi gun. Everything's repeated on either side, and you don't have to disassemble and put the gun back together in any way, shape, or form to make it ambi. Now, the Smith & Wesson M&P10 does have replaceable back straps. You remove this tool, and then you can replace the back straps. It comes with a small, medium, trying to do this on camera. Sorry. Yeah, I'm a professional. All right. The little back straps come in 4 different sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large. I've got the small on it for me, just because I like to get a good grip around the gun. It's got a very good grip. It's very aggressive texturing, really too much if you're going to carry it concealed next to your skin, in my opinion. But for out in the field, especially if your hands are wet or slick or cold, it's a really good idea to have that aggressive stippling. It has their new flat trigger. Gone is that stupid hinge trigger they had on the earlier M&P 2.0s and the Gen 1 guns, which this is a much better trigger. It's got a Glock type blade built into it for trigger safety. And the guns, of course, as always, have been completely cleared, so we're completely safe here. Right, so this little tool is not just a fancy clip for holding the grip module on, the backstrap module on. It is also for disassembly. And the sear is painted in yellow. Hopefully you can see it down in there. It's right under the extractor. The extractor is that long bit of metal right there, the shiny bit. But the sear is down underneath there, so you have to dig in there with that tool and depress that. It's hard to do it with a fingertip, so the problem with this whole system, in my opinion, there, get the light to come back. The whole problem with this system, in my opinion, is that if you were to lose this tool, you would be really having to struggle to find something to push that sear down with. I don't like gym-crack things like that. A proper service weapon, in my opinion, should require no tools to disassemble. It shouldn't have a bunch of fiddly little parts running around after you take it apart, and that you could lose, that are then critical to either disassemble or put the gun back together at some point. This is Smith & Wesson's way of making sure that you don't have what we call a Glock oops, because Glocks and some of the other guns out there, you have to pull the trigger on an empty chamber before you disassemble the gun. Now, why you would be trying to disassemble and clean a weapon that is still loaded with the magazine in and the chamber not checked, I have no idea. But I guess there are people out there, and Smith is trying to idiot-proof this gun. The gun does have a spring guide rod. It's a metal guide rod, unlike the Glock. Some people seem to prefer that. I've never had a problem with the polymer ones in the Glocks, but then some other people say they have. It has a block for the striker. If we get that in focus there. It's got a block for the striker. It's completely drop safe. Essentially the Glock type system, 3 different safeties, 3 different safety circuits, preventing any mishaps as long as you do your part and keep your pointy finger off the bang lever until you're ready to shoot. So if you do all that, the gun is quite safe. Continuing on, the slide of this gun has got what Smith & Wesson calls their Armonite finish. It's just some guy sitting in the marketing department who wears fancy colorful suspenders and has a hipster beard saying that that would be a good name for it. It's a nitride treatment by any other name, same as Glock uses, at least used on up to the Gen 5s. It's used throughout the industry. Frankly, I like nitride. It's a matte finish. It's very durable, highly corrosion resistant, and frankly, if it's good enough for Porsche racing crankshafts, it's good enough for a gun. The barrel is stainless steel, even though it does seem to have some sort of a coating treatment on there. It might also have the Armonite. I don't know if that actually adheres to stainless, so it may be a different process that they put on there. But since it's stainless, even if that coating were to wear off, you would have a very good corrosion-resistant barrel as well. So that eliminates having to do a chrome plating treatment or any other type of treatment, tough writing, whatever it might be, melanite on the bore of the barrel. So you don't have to worry about that interfering with the accuracy. Smith claims the barrels should be very accurate. And when we get it out to the range, we'll determine if that is true. All right, the gun has and again, we are safe. No mag, no bullets. Gun has actually a nice trigger, in my opinion. Got a nice wall, crisp, audible. It's not too firm of a wall, but it's not a weak wall. It's not what I call the trigger in mashed potatoes like the SIGs have. I'm going to get mail on this, but I'll tell you right now, I despise the SIG 320 trigger, and that's that. It does, like I said, it's got a little bit of creep over travel. It feels a little gritty, but when you get it on the range, you don't feel that. You can kind of hear it, but you don't feel it or hear it when you're actually shooting the gun. Got a good break. Reset short. Little uptake to get to the wall again. That could be a bit better, I admit. But all in all, for a production gun, for a service grade weapon, it's perfectly fine. In many respects, it's a little bit better than the Glock, although I think the Glock, at least on the Gen 4 that I have and some of the Gen 5s that I've tried and shot, those have a little shorter reset, return to the wall. You're almost basically right on the wall. This has a little uptake to it, but in practical terms, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. And here you can see the 3-dot sights, those suppressor height sights. Now, when I had this out on the range for a bit, and actually other times just doing some dry fire practice, I did a lot of drawing this gun from concealment, and almost every single time this darn thing caught on something, whether it was clothing or whatever, but it was always catching on stuff. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but at least 70–80% of the time this thing either completely snagged or at least got delayed and drug on something. This being straight up and down is stupid. This will get you killed in a gunfight, in my opinion. It needs to have a chamfer put in it, a slope, a ramp of some sort, so that it does not hang up. It should not be a square face like that. When I get around to carrying this weapon for out in the field, I'm going to replace these sights with some Novak low mount carries. I don't intend to put an optic on it, but even if I did, I'll take the risk that I can't co-witness the sights to the optic, because quite frankly, if the optic goes down, I was originally trained to point shoot a gun, and I'll be up to 10 yards perfectly happy with that. I can hit something, especially a large something like a big grizzly bear, with a point shooting technique. I don't necessarily have to have sights per se. So I'm not worried about the optic issue, and so I think Smith they did this for a marketing thing. They kind of wasted their time from a practical standpoint, in my opinion. Yeah, this is a rackable type sight here, so you could do an emergency rack on it, and you need it since you need it because you have a recoil spring guide rod, so you can't rack the gun with the front of the slide like a proper 1911 can be done. So that's not a bad idea, but the chances of having to do that, you tell me. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So at any rate, that's my opinion on the sights. I really don't like them. And I found out at the range they're a bit problematic too. I just did not like those sights. Now the grip contour, while we're talking about it, like I said, it's very easy to get to. This is probably one of the most user-friendly grip configurations out there on these large frame striker guns. It's much better than the Glock, and I'm a Glock guy, not a fanboy, but a Glock guy. I freely admit the Glock 20 feels like you're hanging on to a 2x4. This grip is very nice. Smith & Wesson did some time studying how the human hand actually grabs onto things, and they put that research into practice with the design of the M&P 2.0 grips. And I think it works very well. It's very comfortable for me. The gun, as you can see, lines up immediately in a proper firing grip, at least with my sized hands. I take a size medium glove, men's glove. The only thing I could complain about is it's a little long for the trigger reach, in my opinion. And with gloves, that might get you in trouble. Since this is a 10mm pistol, we can reasonably assume that people will, for the most part, use this out in the field, and they will use it for hunting and bear defense, things like that. And it's also reasonable to assume that they might be wearing a glove. So let's see how the M&P10 does when we're wearing gloves. Again, the gun is safe. And this is a lightweight glove, and trigger reach is good. I'm fully on the trigger face. I've got a good firing grip. The alignment to my wrist bones did not get altered, and I can press the trigger just fine. No problems with interfering with the glove, interfering with the trigger mechanism under reset. So that's pretty good. So that's a lightweight glove. So now we move into a midweight glove. And again, I've got good alignment. I've got good alignment with my wrist bones, good straight grip. I'm a little more compromised getting to the trigger face, but I can get onto the safety blade just fine. which means I can press the trigger to fire. No interference with reset. And as you can see, there is a copious amount of room here. It's been allowed by the Smith & Wesson engineers in the trigger guard to get that gloved finger in there. So that's really good heads-up football by Smith. All right, now we move into the ultimate test. This is a very heavyweight outdoor glove. It's very thick, very insulated. This has usually proven to be the downfall of most of the guns I've tested for winter carry and things like that. So let's see what the M&P10 does for us. Okay, the grip's not too bad. I'm a little more over my thumb knuckle than I might like to be, but it's not unusable. Cock the action. Now I have trouble. I'm barely on. My fingertip right at the tip of the nail is what's engaging the trigger safety bar, and that's not very good. But as you can see, I can still move the trigger, fire the gun, and no interference with the reset. So not too bad. Just barely makes it. So that's the tabletop section of the review. Wasn't that marvelous? Absolutely riveting video, wasn't it? If you're getting value from this video, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to our channel, give us a big thumbs up, like, that really helps a lot. And of course, ring that little bell so that you get notified every time we come out with a new video. Hey, right now, if you could do us a big favor, go ahead and share this video with all your friends or even the people that you don't like, and let's help us get this word out so that people can see these videos and can get the same information, the same value you're getting too. Now it's time to hand over our M&P10 to sort of, as Top Gear might put it, our tame ninja, Nigel, the slightly better than average ninja, for him to put it through its paces on the range. Take it away, Nigel. Try this off a closed slide, see how we do. There, fed good. Didn't hit the target. There's the target. That's that Remington 180 grain. Could have done better, but it came in pretty good. Just fine. Shoots low. Now we're into the Remingtons. Here's that Sig Sauer on the bottom target, 180 grain, and then there was 4 rounds of the Remington 180 grain as well. Shot low for some reason. The Remington shot a little low too, but the Sig really shot low. Nope. See what happened? Same problem Turkey's opinion had. Alright, so PMC does not get along in any 10mm that I have. I've not tried it in a Glock yet. We'll try it sometime in a Glock. So we'll put that away for now. Okay, next test for the Smith & Wesson M&P10. We're going to do bare grounds. I'm going to start with 4 rounds of the Federal 200 grain hard cast with the Syntec coating. Going to follow it up with 4 of the 220 grain Buffalo Bore hard cast, and then 4 rounds of the 190 grain all copper Lehigh loaded in Buffalo Bore. And supposedly this gun has had some people like Chooks and Long Winding Road have had difficulties with this gun, so with the barrel load. So we'll see how it works. So we'll start off with a closed slide. All right, that's good. And it shoots low. All right, 4 rounds of the Buffalo Bore 220. And 4 rounds of the copper. Well, it fed. Not too impressed with the barrel loads. All of them were very low, very wide groups, a lot of recoil. A lot of that could just be me, but we'll have to do further testing, make sure we trust it. It's not as accurate as the Glock was, not as accurate as the Springfield Ronin 1911. All right, we're going to try some hollow points. We're going to start off with these Winchester, what they call big bore. These are 200 grain. It's a semi-jacketed, lead-nosed hollow point with a very shallow cavity. 4 of those, 4 of Federal's tried and true 200 grain HSTs, and then 3, because that's all we have left, of the Winchester 175 grain silver tip. That's an old school round. And again, we're going to try it off the closed slide, see how we do. Just fine. There's the HST, that's the big bores. Double check. Yeah, that's the big bore. One more of these Winchesters. Okay, that's an HST now. All those fed, and a silver tip. So there's the accuracy or lack thereof with all those hollow points. This gun really shoots low. I think it might be because of those high suppressor sights, but it really shoots low. I shot all those hollow points at the top target. It only had 1 hole in it, maybe 2 when I started. It still doesn't have very many holes. So something going on with the gun. I have to play with it some more. What did we learn about the Smith & Wesson M&P10? Well, first of all, it is a reliable gun. And there are some videos out there with people who had trouble along Winding Road, and I think Chooks had a few issues with it, especially with heavy duty, super heavy duty barrel loads. And this gun had no issues whatsoever. Admittedly, we didn't give it a 20,000 or 20 million round endurance test or anything like that, because we don't have an ammunition company supplying us the ammo like some of these other channels have. So we have to buy the ammo off the shelf, and as you know, it's very expensive, so we put just a few rounds through it. But the gun was right out of the box. That's how we test all of our guns. Yeah, people are going to complain, well, the assembly lube isn't really lube and blah, blah, blah. Hey, if it looks like gun oil, smells like gun oil, and feels like gun oil, in my opinion, it's gun oil. And besides, especially a modern striker fire gun, you ought to be able to take that thing out of the box and have it be stone cold reliable. That's our standard at the channel, and some people like it, some people don't, but we feel that a gun nowadays should run right out of the box. It had a good reset, it was crisp, but the sights, for some reason, Nigel didn't really get along with those at all, and we found the gun, as you saw, shooting low all the time. And the accuracy could have been better, but we'll chalk it up to the moment that Nigel might have just been having an off day. At some point, we're going to sit down and put the gun on sandbags, and at some point, we're going to shoot the gun off of a rest and see how it does in a more formal accuracy test as opposed to just offhand shooting. And we'll show you that video as soon as we get around to making it, as soon as we can. So we'd really appreciate your comments, whether it's on the M&P10 or anything else. I mean, do you have an M&P10? Let us know. What are your experiences with it? Does it coincide with what we've come up with in our review? Would we carry an M&P10? Absolutely. I think the gun's superb. The only thing I would change is these stupid suppressor height sights. I don't like these at all. We explained them to you already, that the front sight catches on just about everything it can find between you and the next county. And it seems that the fact that they're not aligned very well with the bore axis is also a little bit of a limitation. It may be why the gun seemed to shoot low for us. Perhaps if we had brought the gun up and just used the slide basically and point shot it, it might have done a little bit better, but we wanted to use the sights and see how it works out of the box. So the next thing we're going to do is change these sights at some point. We're going to put, we plan to at least probably put the Novak low mount carry sights on these things, on this thing. And if we do, we'll give you a video of it and see if it improved things at all. Plus we're going to do a proper rested accuracy test just to see if the gun is accurate. It probably is. Every Smith & Wesson I've ever shot, ever owned over the years, semi-automatic revolver has usually been exceptionally accurate, or certainly accurate enough for its job. So we would have to give the M&P a good to excellent rating, with the proviso that we have to do an accuracy test on it, a formal accuracy test, just to make sure the gun's really spot on, which we think it probably will be. But reliable, really friendly in the hand, easy to work with, easy to field strip, except for the stupid thing with having to push the sear down. And I explained that to you. Don't like that part at all. But if you buy one of these, you're going to have to put up with that, so you know that going in. It's not that big a deal, but again, it's just gym crack, and I think they could have done a better job, frankly. Once again, thank you for taking your valuable time to watch us here at the LocaCarnivore. And as always, stay aware, stay safe, be kind, and we'll see you next time on LocaCarnivore.